Hey everybody, this is the BS Podcast Network. I'm Ben Dorst.
Steven Dominguez.
At least this show is better than pure BS.
What?
What are you? I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is
Bond.
I'm
Batman.
name's Bond.
James Bond.
I'm Batman.
Bond. James Bond.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. This is the Batman vs. James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. And this is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. It is great to be back. I hope all of you have had a fantastic week. Mine was great. You know, a little bit of Olympic events and Bond movies mixed in whenever my wife is not taking over the television. This week, we have a returning listener guest. We'd like to welcome back Mr. Christian Evangelista. I always worry that I pronounce your last name wrong, Christian. I'm sorry.
Okay, don't worry about it. That sounded great.
That sounded great. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, what's going on? How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. I've been a busy past couple months.
It sounds like it. That's why you're on, because you and I have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is good to have you back. So, before we get down to business, a few things I want to mention. As I mentioned last week, the Batman vs. James Bond show is now part of the BS Podcast Network. You can find the show and a whole bunch of other great shows on bspodnetwork.com. Shout out to Steve, Ben, and Devin over there from their show, Pure BS Podcast, and you can imagine what the BS stands for. Before we get everything else started, I'd like to remind everybody to please subscribe to the Batman vs. James Bond show on iTunes and leave a nice little review for me on there. Thank you. Christian, did you leave your review? I put you on the spot, didn't I?
What's that?
I said, did you leave your review on there yet?
Oh, I did.
You did? Okay.
Actually, even before I started listening to you. Before I came on.
Awesome, my man. Okay. Now you can still stay on the show now. Okay. Just kidding. As I always like to mention, especially for the new listeners out there, welcome. I am not a movie critic, right, Christian?
No,
I'm not a movie critic. I am, well, we could kind of say I'm a blogger, but I'm not a blogger for any specific movie site, not at all. I'm just a guy who is passionate about Batman and James Bond, and Christian, you can understand where I'm coming from with this. Batman and James Bond are life for me. It's just, we're influenced by them, at least I am. Sometimes I'll throw in a Bond line in there, sometimes to my friends, and they'll scratch their head. They're like, "What? What'd you just say?" Like, you don't get it. But that hopefully the listeners and you get it out there. So, having said that, let's get down to business. So, let's talk a little bit about Suicide Squad there, Christian. You did have a chance to see it, right?
Yeah, I saw it the Friday that it opened, actually.
Okay.
With a bunch of my friends.
All right. So, what were your thoughts on it? I know I had my thoughts. I actually had an hour plus episode, well, maybe a little hour episode, give or take, but I had lots of thoughts on that. And I know there are mixed reviews out there, so I'm anxious to see what you had to say about this.
I would say it was a bit of a mess, but it was an enjoyable mess.
Yeah.
For me, I enjoyed all the characters, even say those that didn't have much up to do, like Captain Boomerang or Killer Croc. They were still fun characters. My main issue was with the choice of the villain. It just didn't seem like it was something that fit with Suicide Squad to get, say, topple for and like Black Ops type, send them in to deal with natural threat. So that just seemed off to me. And with that, and then you get your fairly common, third act superhero ending with, a giant machine that's going to end all life, and they have to do something.
Right.
I like the first two acts, third act less so, but it was still fun to watch, and I'm glad.
Yeah, it was, I'll go back to my review real quick. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. Every joke was awesome, and the action was great. when it came down to the villain, I stick by this, that it was like a Ghostbusters villain in a way. It was like, and for anybody who's ever seen and I'm not talking about the new Ghostbusters, I haven't had a chance to see that yet, and maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but I'm talking about the Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ivan Reitman directed Ghostbusters, the only Ghostbusters that I will ever know. And the main villain in there, for anybody who hasn't seen this, is Gozer. And it happens to, Gozer can be whatever it wants to be, and in this case, it happened to be an attractive woman. And the guys had to fight it. It was a team of about 4, give or take, and it was 4 Ghostbusters, right? And they had to fight this monster, and it was, in a way, it was like a witch, and the witch had powers. It had demons, and she was kind of crazy.
Yeah,
and. That was back in 1984, and here we are, a little ways later, and, you would think you would see something new on the table, or, so, and I don't know all the background about the Suicide Squad, I've said that before, but, I mean, at least with this, like Christian mentioned, it's just a weapon that's going to destroy Earth. I mean, come on, we how many times have we seen that, and it's... The whole comic book fatigue keeps coming back to mind, and I as much as I want to say, no, it's just depends on the spin that they put on it, but this could be a reason, just like, okay, well, maybe that's why critics bashed it. That's why some people didn't like it. Some people just didn't get what the Suicide Squad was about. It's like, these are super villains, they're not going to be your typical good guys, and I don't know. The comparisons are out there with Guardians of the Galaxy. They're out there with Deadpool. And when I look at this, well, let's look at Deadpool at the beginning of the year. And I'm not trying to do verses all of a sudden, but maybe eventually I will have to. Deadpool was definitely, it was a rated R movie. It was a different kind of comic book movie. And as far as a plot and story is concerned, it was nothing, I would say, original, but it's just how it was written, and it didn't have to be like too clever. It was just straight to the point. This one, it just seemed like something was missing. At least in my mind, it did.
Yeah. I think part, like, and I've heard the rumors, as probably most of your listeners have, about how that. That there was a lot of studio interference and the whole thing got recut. So maybe that's somewhere in the line that went missing. And I mean, if they have an ultimate, like, they did for Batman v Superman, I'd watch it. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, now it's coming down for, at least for the DC fans and Warner Brothers fans, it comes out, it's like, oh, don't worry, there's going to be an ultimate cut. It'll make things all better. It's like, okay, well, why didn't they show that in theaters? Now, we have David Ayer, the director of Suicide Squad, and he's defending this movie, saying this is his cut. Honestly, I don't believe it. I truly don't believe it. There's news articles out there saying that, and this goes back to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, just the original theatrical cut, saying that the head of the studio and the executives were like really kind of nervous and like worried about how the reaction of Batman v Superman was with the critics and with the audience. And so they kind of went back and they had at least 2, maybe 3 different cuts of this movie. Honestly, I'd love to see all 3 of them. I really would. I like to see, I want to sign up you can sign up for screenings. Anybody can do that. But to be, to see the original screening and see the other screening of this, I'd love to have seen those too. Because apparently there's a difference between night and day. One's a little bit lighter, and that might not be the David Ayer version. David Ayer is known for having more of a darker movie, and he's not so much known for doing a PG-13 movie either. Which, I mean, that never worried me to begin with. It also comes down to, and this happened with Zack Snyder, about how he made a comment that Warner Brothers gives him creative freedom. And that's a phrase you're going to hear a lot more, especially with, like, say, director Patty Jenkins, who's going to be directing Wonder Woman, and I guess is it James Wan? I believe he's directing Aquaman.
Yeah, James Wan.
I always forget the guy who's directing Flash. He directed Dope. I remember that.
Changed. I don't remember who it is now, actually.
Yeah, and these are all creative directors, and they want to put their own spin to the film, and as they should. But if you were looking at the Warner Brothers DC Film Studio, I can say, all right, all this drama happened before Batman v Superman. They greenlit this movie before Batman v Superman, back in whatever it was, 2014, I think, give or take. And then they didn't know, they didn't know how it was going to like be reacted. They're like, okay, we got this, but they gave Ayer maybe 6 weeks to write the story. And wow, I mean, I can't imagine the pressure somebody would have with that. I mean, yeah, it's not that he didn't know the characters. It's just, but you have to put something, like I said, you have to be creative and you have to be original with that. And, and not everybody's going to like it. So, I mean, we've seen directors being replaced, say, with Superman 2 always comes to mind because there's a Richard Donner cut out there.
Right,
and then there's the guy who's kind of shadowing him and took over for him. I don't remember.
Lester, yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So with all this said, it just, I mean, I don't know, man. It really annoys me that, did the studio really, is that really his theatrical cut? And, what happens here? Here's the biggest issue I have. The studio when I say studio, I'm talking about the DC universe or DC films, whatever they want to call it. Mm-hmm. How they feel that they have to have it's becoming a need to jumpstart its universe to catch up with a certain other studio. Starts with an M, it's not, it has a mouse. Sometimes it's its logo, as its main character. What do you think about that? Do they need to be in a rush to do this, to do these films?
Well, I think they want to because they see, how, many of the Marvel films are making, pulling in $1 billion, like say the Avengers. I think that was $1 billion, and they say, wait, we need to get on that. Why do I have this yet?
Mm-hmm.
And but I guess part of me is at least glad that when they announced Batman v Superman, I was at least glad that they weren't going to do, because we've seen Batman's origin so many times, and I was just like, oh, I'm so glad, we're not going to have another Batman movie before we have a Batman and Superman movie and then Justice League. And then once I start the movie, hey, we're telling you the same origin over and over again.
Yeah, it's almost exact too. Maybe a little bloodier, actually.
Well, I'm sort of glad that they're well, at least for first, it seemed like they weren't trying to do exactly the Marvel method, because they're their own. They are their own film.
Mm-hmm.
Copy exactly, because if you're just copying that, then you're not really generating any new ideas of your own, which would be, well, then. If you want to see something that's in the Marvel style, just see a Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I've made it clear on when I was on here the last time,
mm-hmm.
not the biggest fan of Zack Snyder and his style.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
We'll see. And that was part of why I was really looking forward to Suicide Squad, and why I'm still looking forward to Wonder Woman, because it's going to be even though it's. Mm-hmm. A DC movie, it's going to become, in a completely different era, and it'll be characters aside from Wonder Woman who we've never, seen before. So it'll be new and different, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. And especially going back to what I was saying about how you said Zack Snyder too, and how at that time it was kind of like Snyder running DCEU before Jeff Johns had his, is now the main guy. That's kind of like their Kevin Feige. So, and you could see kind of an influence with this of Snyder, and he even directed the one scene in there. For those who haven't seen it, I'll won't do any spoilers about that at all, but go back and listen to my episode of Suicide Squad. But now it's Snyder. I think the studio realized, okay, well, Snyder, and with all respect to him, he is very creative. Visually, he gets it done. I don't think many directors can like that, and he knows how to do action sequences. Just the chase in Batman. I'm sorry, the chase too. But I was going to say the Batman fight sequence in the warehouse of Batman v Superman, probably one of the best Batman fights I've ever seen. The Man of Steel fight sequences in there, they're flawless. They really are. As a storyteller, though, I don't know if he can, if he needs some help. And I think that's where Jeff Johns and Ben Affleck are going to be, kind of more looking over it, so to speak. Obviously Ben Affleck, his reputation precedes him. He can't, watch Zack Snyder on every single thing, but as an executive producer, maybe he can have more say on this as opposed to the last time. So yeah, I mean, with Suicide Squad, yeah, I mean, it just, everybody's going to have their opinion. I've never seen a movie. I mean, I thought Batman v Superman had so many mixed reviews. This one beats it out by far. It really does.
Yeah, I think it's like, what was it? So one of my friends showed me this graph where it's the difference between audience reaction and critical reaction, and it's on the far spectrum of the audience liked it and critics hated it, and funnily enough, on the exact opposite end of that, where critics loved it and audience hated it, was Ang Lee's Hulk.
Never saw it.
So yeah, I saw it on my birthday, the year it came out, and it was just sort of like, oh, well, that was that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one and done. Oh well. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, just with this, I mean, the critics. Okay. The critics have like I don't know. People are, let's just say the fans, the diehard fans are, they probably have so many like bad words and death threats for the critics out there. And let's face it, they're everybody to each his own. There really is. I mean, I'm sure you like movies. You probably like some James Bond movies that I don't like as much, and I might like vice versa. And for any film fan, it's been compared to art. It really is. It's like if you like, some people like a Picasso, some people like a Monet more, and that's I might just say, oh, it's okay. It might be overrated. I don't know. I mean, so sometimes I might like the simpler things. I don't know. I went in with this movie thinking, okay, well, the negative reviews didn't help because my expectations were set a little bit lower. But at the same time, I was like, okay, stick by your thing, make your own review. And, I still had a great time with it. Like I said, it's not without its flaws, but I think that it's, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people have even said, there was an article, and it was on ScreenRant.com. I was reading it about like what the DCEU can learn from the Christopher Nolan trilogy. And I'm like, okay, well, I was reading it, and they made some valid points on there about at the time, and this is what I was saying about like how should DCEU feel like they have to catch up to the Marvel universe, because when you're looking at something like even going back to the Tim Burton Batman films and the Nolan trilogy, this was all before Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they just made a Batman movie and they made it to the best of their ability, despite what people think of Dark Knight Rises. But I happen to like it, maybe even love it. But it was just, you make a movie to the best of your ability, hopefully, and then that's it. You don't have to worry about crossing, characters. You don't have to worry about, all kinds of other things and, trying to catch up with somebody else. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I am a big fan of the Nolan trilogy. And like you, I do like Dark Knight Rises. And part of what made those movies so great is that they were just trying to be their movies and not trying to set up this whole cinematic universe. And honestly, even some of the Marvel films suffer because of that. Say Iron Man 2, which really is trying to set up 3 different movies in that. And whereas it's and I mean, still an okay film, but it's not as good as the first one or some of the other Marvel films. And the way that Nolan is good visually and good at storytelling, which is why he really needs to do a Bond film. But that's
I don't know if they could afford him. Maybe they could. I don't know. I mean, it's Nolan.
So I think they need to go back. There's a way to do it, obviously, where you can tell your own story and at the same time, maybe plant tiny seeds for a universe, or but you don't need to do it all at the same time.
No, I think it was rushed, but I mean, at least with this movie, it was Batman v Superman. I'm sure that Snyder kind of had that planned out. I mean, they even waited to do some things with it, but that was more his storytelling. I mean, the writer, at least from what I understand, is a writer can write a story, and a screenplay can be written, but the director can choose whatever they want, because at the end of the day, it's their film. So When it comes to Nolan, I mean, he just, I don't know, something about that trilogy, Christian. It's at the top of, my movie chain. It really is. And James Bond films have even gone that route too. And, we saw, let's even go back to Spectre, just how the mixed reactions were with that Bond film. And, I remember talking to some people and they were saying that, maybe it's time. It was actually James Bond Radio, as a matter of fact, how we talked about before about this. Great podcast, check that out. The guys on there were saying that, maybe it's time that James Bond gets est on in a way, and maybe it's time that right now this is DC's time where they get est on because they had so many good movies. I don't know if that's true or not. It is an interesting theory, though. What I read before I came on here is that Suicide Squad was number one at the box office again this weekend. Brought in $43.8 million. And that's pretty good, all things considered, because one, it had some competition out there. Was it Pete's Dragon? And
Pete's Dragon came out this weekend.
There was another one, and I can't remember.
Sausage Party?
Yeah, Sausage Party. Oh, that's an interesting one. So now Suicide Squad has made $222.9 million domestically. Its worldwide box office is $465.4 million. But besides all that, here's the thing, and once again falls into Batman v Superman territory. The domestic box office dropped 67% this weekend. Batman v Superman, if you don't remember, dropped 69% after its second weekend. So it seems like I hope Suicide Squad doesn't, fall into that category, just like Batman v Superman, of just trying it where it does well, but it still has trouble making its money back. I don't think it's going to I don't think it's going to be a bomb at all. I don't know if it's going to be the critical success that everybody wanted and the studio wanted. So, yeah. Once again, though, it's just they need to, Warner Brothers needs to pump the brakes. They really do. At least that's my opinion. I think that after these two movies, maybe they'll say, okay, well, we need to have a better game plan. We really do. So we shall see. So let's change courses here. Let's talk a little bit about James Bond. So anytime we can hear Bond news, we're all excited. At least I know that I am and Christian is. This came out and Christian, I'm not sure if you knew this. You might have. The Daniel Craig was cast in this Showtime miniseries called Purity, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
Purity, and it's rumored. Well, one, we don't know who's going to be the next James Bond. Craig is contracted for another one, but it doesn't mean that he will come back. Remind you what he said last year about slashing his wrist and so forth, and water over the bridge. As far as I'm concerned, is he coming back or is he not coming back? It always seems to be the conversation when you're on here. The Showtime the Showtime president and CEO David Nevins. He made a comment about saying that the first two seasons will be fairly continuous and that it should not theoretically interfere with the filming of Bond 25. So it would be really interesting knowing this now, because as soon as we heard that Daniel Craig was going to be signed on for this miniseries, it's like, okay, well, that's his official no, or at least that's how it was reported, saying, okay, well, this is him saying, passing on doing Bond 25. Now it's time to find a new James Bond. It's going to be Tom Hiddleston or whoever the next guy, the new sensation is that's dating Taylor, whatever her name is. So, what do you think about this? Should we continue to hold out hope that Daniel Craig will come back?
Honestly, for me, and I think I've said this the last time I was on here too, is that until I hear something from Daniel Craig, Eon, the Broccoli's, or any representatives of them, I'm going to hold out hope that he's going to come back. I think where Spectre left off is, on the one hand, yeah, it could be a good, just bow on the knot of his whole tenure as Bond, but it's also a good starting place of where you could, pick up from there. So, the way it was made, it could go either way. I personally love him as Bond, and I would love to, see him come back. But if he feels like it's his time, then, we wish him well, and I'm curious who the next person would be. But I'm still holding that.
Yeah,
And the fact that they even made this, announcement that they made this announcement, but that gives me just the slightest bit of more hope.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I really want him to come back just because I want to see a revenge. Well, we've seen revenge movies, but I want to see more of the Blofeld versus his Bond. I really do. The Christoph Waltz Blofeld. I want to see more of that one because I worry that if Daniel Craig doesn't come back, we won't get any more of that. And it's like, well, what could have been? Just kind of like what happened with On Her Majesty's Secret Service. What could have been had Sean Connery not come back? And well, there's an example of a Bond taking off but coming back, and I don't know if actually, I could see that happening nowadays because, even looking at other spy movies, Jason Bourne, you had Jeremy Renner come on, and then, Damon came back. So in that way, that in my sense, I was like, okay, well, that's kind of him like pulling a Connery just because, either it's about the paycheck or he really does care about this. So,
it's funny that you mentioned that because I did see Jason Bourne movie, and, I liked the previous few and it was more the same, but it did strike me too. It's like, hey, wait, this is a film where, the main star, went away for a movie, then came back, and then there's a big chase through Las Vegas where he's also in a Dodge Charger. And I was like, all right, if this thing flaps up, on two wheels, then I just know where the influence was.
Oh, no spoilers yet. I haven't had a chance to see it. I wanted to try to see it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think I spoiled anything there.
That's okay.
They show Vegas in the trailers, but
yeah. Actually, they spoiled something for me in one of the TV spots, and I'm like, I didn't want to know that. And that's another thing with spoilers and trailers. I'll have to talk about that another time. But yeah, it is that once I see Jason Bourne, I definitely want to do a versus of that versus Diamonds Are Forever. I don't care how much the stories really are alike, but I bet you that there are some similarities in there. There's got to be. And who knows, maybe Daniel Craig will be like, oh, this guy's not cutting it, or, it's about the dump truck full of money, as the saying goes, just pay me the money. But, I don't know. It just, I think he's one of those actors that, he put everything he had into it and then he's finished with it. And you have actors like Roger Moore who, just, they did as much as they could with it. And, they just kept going on and on. Then he just felt like, okay, it's my time to bow out. Pierce Brosnan, on the other hand, he wanted to do more, and after Die Another Day, I can understand why. The stories that he had, it felt like they decreased, I guess. They're still fun. I'll still go back and watch them. Yeah. I was so excited when I watched Die Another Day that I'm just like, this is one of the best Bond movies ever. Then I'm like, 10 years later, I'm like, wait a minute. Then comes Danny Boy, and I'm just like, okay, this is what a James Bond movie could be. Yeah, all right. But so whenever Bond news breaks, of course, we will talk about it, but this is just to keep us hanging on a little bit more. It's such a tease. It really is. But, but you, on the other hand, kind of like Bond, you did make a trip out to Vegas.
So, this past...
should have set that up better.
Now?
You like James Bond, had an experience in Vegas, and as a matter of fact, you got to sort of meet James Bond or James Bond's out there. There we go. That's a better pitch, right?
Yeah. So, 2 weeks ago, I went to Las Vegas, and currently, Madame Tussauds over there, they has an exhibit which has wax figurines of all the James Bonds, from Connery to Daniel Craig, all in their primes, and it was just amazing to see all of them. And so, I've been chasing this thing for a long time now. So they. Around the time that Spectre opened, started off in London, and then and then they brought it to L.A., and I just missed it in L.A. When I went to New York at the beginning of June, it had closed the day before I got there. So I was like, all right. And then I just happened to be going to Vegas. I was like, and I knew that Vegas was their next stop. So I was like, all right, I have to catch it here. Although, if it does come to DC, I would love to see it again. But it's really cool. So they're all dressed in tuxedos, all in various, poses. So, with Connery is in the fashion of his very classic photo with the gun held up. Timothy Dalton. trying to remember now. I think he just has his hand at his side. So is Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig, and then Roger Moore and George Lazenby both have the gun pose, and they're all in their tuxedos, and it's
are you.
Yeah,
I'm looking at. We'll post these pictures on Instagram if you don't mind, or maybe we'll throw.
Oh yeah, go ahead. That's the more people that see them, the better. It was actually pretty funny. So yeah, I went there and I had a tuxedo on, and I was posing for photos. My girlfriend and my dad were taking photos of me, and other people were coming through the exhibit. And then I'd move, and they'd get freaked out because they thought that I was one of the figures. Well, I'm just standing with all the people also in a tuxedo.
Yeah, I'm looking at this one picture. You're in the middle, technically in the middle of Daniel Craig and Sean Connery, and you blend right in, man. You really do. So I mean, maybe I don't know how old you are, but maybe like in the next couple of years, maybe if they don't find anybody for Daniel Craig, then maybe you can try out for James Bond because you got the look, that's for sure, and that tux looking really snazzy. I must admit
that would be really cool.
How real? Go
put
ahead.
any man in a tux.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Put any man in a tux, and he feels like James Bond.
Definitely, and that's what I love about wearing a tux. I would look for any excuse, and my wife would be just like, "You just think you're James Bond," and be like, "Yeah, that's why I picked a black tux for our wedding. Duh. That's why I came out to the Bond theme. Hell yeah, absolutely. Because you feel like James Bond, just something about that. And you just, even if you're not a martini drinker, you just want to drink a martini or, pose with a Walther. I mean, something like that. You want to find an Aston Martin and just stand next to it like it's yours. Yeah, you want to own the real world. These wax figures, I gotta say, they look spot on, and they look really close. I mean, did you ever get freaked out by them at all? Because I know I would, just a little bit, because they look so real.
Not with the with the Bonds themselves, because they're set in an area that's clearly looks like it's set up just
right.
Some of the other ones, so like they'll have a few different rooms. They'll have first a celebrity room, then a sports room, and then they have the TV and movie room, and then they'll have the Marvel room. But so it was in one of the other ones where like some of them they're just standing around, and you like go around. It looks it's set up like to look like a club or something, and you could just be standing next and you not notice that one of them is behind you, and you think it's a real person. So that happened more than a few times. Where like I was just like backed up and I'm sorry, that's a statue.
Yeah. Also,
what happened is you think they're standing again. This happened. I was on the other side of this. People were just standing still for so long, whether they were just checking their phone or something, or just standing there, and then they moved, and I was like, wait, that's not a statue. Just people who were like also looking at the exhibits. But one of the nice other things was that, in addition to the Bond room, they actually had a few, first they had one Batman related photo, wax sculpture. They had a Ben Affleck sculpture. I'm not sure what age it was from. I think it's from when he was a bit younger, but
he does look a little younger. Yeah. You guys are sitting at a table and look like you're ready to tear up the town. That's for sure.
Yeah, and they also had Halle Berry, maybe not the best Bond girl or even the best Bond movie, but still, it's cool that they had her there.
Beautiful lady, beautiful, gorgeous, yeah.
And then they also had, like, in the music section, they had a bunch of people who, had relations to Bond films. There were, who was it?
Tom Jones?
Madonna. Again, another Die Another Day connection. I'm not sure why that is. And
pop culture.
Louis Armstrong, who did the song, one of the songs from Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Good song.
And then, what's his name? Guy... How I'm losing it. He plays the Professor Joe. In License to Kill. What's his name now? Wayne Newton.
Yes,
statue of him there.
Yeah, Wayne Newton is. Professor Joe. Something about that character I really love. Bless your heart. That's so good. Oh, I want to watch that now. Yeah. The pictures turned out awesome. They really did. Yeah.
I think my favorite is there's one that I have that's the selfie with Daniel Craig, and I was I was trying to make it so I was like, all right, we have the same eye line. That looks perfect.
Yeah. No, it turned out all of them turned out amazing. you just
the closest thing I get to meeting one of them.
Yeah, I love just how you were striking the exact same pose as them, and it just, like I said, if I were walking through there, I know I would freak out. I think my favorite, the one that looks the most, is probably I don't know, Roger Moore and George Lazenby, definitely, and Timothy Dalton. The Pierce one, it looked good. It's something about his hair.
That one. Because I think so. They had to make brand new ones for everyone besides Pierce and Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
So I think it was because it was an older one, so it wasn't. I think with their technique, always improves over the years. So that's why those ones look. All the other ones look the best, whereas I think Pierce's one is probably the oldest one.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, yeah.
Who would have ever thought that they'd give one for, George Lazenby?
Yeah, I don't know if he would ever have thought that too, but I'm sure he's.
Yeah, but he was actually. I think they had. I'm trying to remember if it was either New York or Las Vegas for the opening. They actually had George come down and pose with his model.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because he's not, it's not like he's doing much else besides the convention circuit these days.
Yeah, I knew that he was doing something. I think it was in London last time I heard about him doing that, so that might be it. But yeah, I hope this comes to town or even to New York. I definitely want to go see this. So
I keep asking them if they're going to come to DC next after they move from a location. So maybe they'll listen, and then we'd have to go for an excursion of our own over there.
I'm all in on that. Yes, definitely. So, like I said, we'll post the pictures. Like I said, if you don't mind, we'll post them on the Instagram page for Batman versus Bond. And they are very cool. And if you're in it was in Vegas, correct?
Yeah, it was in Vegas. And actually, so that's not the only thing Bond related I did see in Vegas. So, first of all, when I was just walking around at one point in one of these hotels, one of the newer hotels, it's called the SLS Hotel.
Okay.
Formerly the Sahara Hotel. At one point, I'm, just looking down. I was like, oh, there's all these on the carpet. There's all these like photos, or like I don't know how they, made on the carpet. With there's all these photos of different celebrities. And as I'm walking around, and then on the photos I sent to you, there's a giant, and it's Sean Connery and Tiffany Case lying there. I was like, oh. Well, that made my day. Actually, I was like, because I had just watched Diamonds Are Forever the weekend before the Vegas.
Yeah, you got to get in the Bond spirit.
All of that.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if you're like me, but if you do the same thing, but certain times if I'm going to certain locations, it's like, was Bond here? I'm like, okay, if I'm going to Miami, I will watch Goldfinger for some odd reason, because it started off the second part of Goldfinger. I'm sorry, it was still in the first half, but he was in Miami at the hotel there. Going to New York, got to watch Live and Let Die. Went to Panama, and I'm like, this looks familiar. Quantum of Solace was filmed here, a lot of it.
Oh, that's right.
And I walked inside they made it look like the hotel when they were in Bolivia.
Oh, yeah,
And I'll have to find more pictures that I posted, but it turns out it's not a hotel; it's like a museum or something like that.
Oh,
and I tried. I don't want to use the word sneak. I just kept walking, trying to go up the elevator to the stairs. I was like, no, you can't go up there. I'm like, oh, it's not the same. Come on, let me see it. But just to know a location, where Bond is or Batman have been, it's really cool. I mean, especially Bond. It's in Vegas. I mean, like I said, when you think of Vegas, you think Diamonds Are Forever. Sorry if you hear thunder in the background right now, because it looks like I'm about to get a thunderstorm. No, but Diamonds Are Forever, just the lots of classic scenes in there. That just not just the casino, but just like you mentioned, the scene with the Mustang in there. That is such. It just shows that Bond didn't have to have gadgets to get him by. It just whatever. So
one of the neatest things I think I saw was I went to Circus, where part of Diamonds is filmed, and it looks, other than the layout of the casino tables, not a lot has changed. And I went up to the Midway, which is where they have all the games, and I found what looks like, and I can't confirm this or not, the same. Well, it looks like the same design as the water guns they use in the movie when Tiffany Case is getting the diamonds.
Oh wow. Very cool. So they really do have a circus thing set up in there.
Yeah, they do have and it was, sadly, it was too early. Like, I think I went about 9 or 10, and the Midway and the Circus X started 11, so I didn't get to see any of that. But I did at least get to see, those water guns. Like, those look exactly the same with the balloons and everything.
Very cool. I was going to say, I don't think he saw a Shady Tree show, because I don't think... let's face, spoiler alert, he didn't make it in the movie, so yeah.
No.
But, there were some really good scenes in there, and... let's see, did you see plenty of Tool with the casino?
No, but I did play a little craps.
Nice. To try to be like Bond. I like blackjack, so I pull more of a Timothy Dalton and License to Kill anytime I'm there. And I don't know something about blackjack, and I've never tried craps before, but yeah.
Crap, it's very complicated.
Yeah, it is.
Is the thing. So I actually, what I did, first time I played it when I was there, is there's actually electronic versions of your table game. So I was like, all right, I'm going to play this for a lower, minimum bid, so that I can learn how to play it before I actually go up to the real table.
Mm-hmm. That's always good. Definitely.
That way I'm not, just blowing the money for whichever way I don't know how I'm doing.
Question for you. Did you wear a tux when you were at the table?
I did not. I did have it. I was like, it was just too hot in Vegas to wear a tux all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. Yeah,
but I did have I did have a blazer on.
Okay.
I was like, all right, this is not dressy enough that I stand out a little, but I'm not going to wear a full tux. It's just too hot.
Oh, it is. Yeah. But somehow they make it look cool. Something about that too. Yeah. So cool. You mentioned before on the pre-show, which that you did make it down to New Orleans also.
Oh yeah. So for a work conference in early or late June, actually, I went down to New Orleans, and I did explore a little bit of the French Quarter, and I found the storefront that the Filet of Soul restaurant is. Now, right now, it's not a restaurant. I don't remember what it is actually, but I did see it and stand there and didn't see a jazz funeral, sadly.
That might be better. Just one of two reasons. First, because in case somebody passed, and because you wouldn't want to have somebody to walk up next to you and possibly, just kind of
whose funeral is this?
Yeah, yours. Nice one.
But
and it's probably better that you didn't go in the Filet of Soul, just because you wouldn't want to sit in a booth, because you never know if it's going to turn around on you.
No,
and don't ever sit at the front.
Close to the stage.
Never sit at the front row. And let your friend go to the bathroom or whatever, because you might not see him ever again. Yeah.
Well, so the nice thing was, though, even though when you're in New Orleans, there's just that spirit, the spirit of New Orleans, which also permeated, all those scenes in the movie of Live and Let Die. Mm-hmm. But when I was and of course, one of the great things about New Orleans is the music. So when I went to this bar, I think it was called 21st Amendment, which was sort of prohibition themed. They had a live bar, and at one point, I hear them mention the band is just talking between themselves and mentions no, is that in that Bond movie? And then I hear them play a few notes of it, of the Bond, what sounds like the Bond theme, and then they go into what I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's called New Second Line, which is the music they play, the lively music they play when they have the jazz funeral.
Really?
Yeah. So
cool.
It's a standard apparently, but they the fact I heard them with my ears, they mentioned Bond. I was like, what are they talking about? And they started playing this, I know this song, and it just made me so happy. And I also, which another fun thing, I did also go up to the bar and say 2 Sazeracs, and then my companion looked at me and said, "This is New Orleans."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so
nice.
like you, I throw in the Bond line when it's appropriate.
Yes, you almost have to. It just, not that you have to. It's just something about those. I try to throw. Not that I do it intentionally, but if somebody says just the right thing, it just. I sneak it in there. It's an inside joke with myself and whoever does get that stuff. Unfortunately, most of my close friends don't get it, but oh well. So, but I'm glad that you do, and I'm glad that I know that there are other people, while they might not admit it or whatever. But so if you use a Bond line, throw me out. Tweet me what your favorite Bond line is that you use all the time. I think I went through a span where I used some of Daniel Craig's lines. It was Houston Casino Royale. I don't even remember what it was, but yeah, I try to pull Daniel Craig in there sometimes. If I happen to watch a Bond or movie of like Pierce Brosnan, I'll do that too. So, yeah. What I was using this weekend? It's like, that's more like it. So that could be actually Batman or James Bond because he used it in Spectre.
Lucius Fox.
Yeah, exactly. So I was throwing those out there, but no, those trips. I mean, I'm happy you had a great time, and it's I made it out to Vegas, but I didn't know that it was actually filmed in Vegas. I'm not surprised, I suppose.
Oh yeah,
and
a lot of it was filmed there.
I didn't even know the casino, so now if I can ever make it back out there, I do want to check out New Orleans. I definitely want to, and yeah, very cool, man, awesome.
Yeah, so if you ever are in Vegas, there's other than what I've got to that I only had a weekend, I didn't get to do much, but there is one of the hotels, which is the Cosmopolitan, has a bar. It's called the Vesper Bar, and they specialize in Vesper martinis there.
Very cool.
And that's really great. And then one of the things I did also do was they have these things in Vegas, and I think they have some in like New York and Chicago. They're called ice bars, where the entire place is made of ice, and they give you parkers to wear, so you feel like you're in Die Another Day. Or alternatively, you could also feel like you're in Batman and Robin. Me and my sister, when we were in the bar, we were making lots of ice puns, lots of bad Mr. Freeze puns.
No. I mean, it is fun. I mean, to pull some Arnold, humor in there, of course. But everybody chill, But yeah, I would try. Let's see, it'd probably be easier just to make the Batman and Robin ones over Die Another Day. I mean.
Other than saying, let's see, vodka martini, plenty of ice if you can spare it.
Yeah, I can't do that. Mojito, por favor. Mr. Bond was just showing. Did Mr. Bond show you his Big Bang Theory? I don't think you can pull that one off either. So
not really.
Yeah, but all right, very cool, man. Anything else that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, so for me. Like I said, I love traveling, and so it's always fun to go places that have been Bond locations. I've been to Hong Kong, where they filmed some of Man with the Golden Gun. I've been to Japan, and I've even been to the hotel where they filmed, which was Osato Chemicals, and so I actually was there at night, and it was really cool. I was running between those columns where you see Connery running and avoiding the gunfire.
Nice.
But I think, and my dream location one day is to just go to Piz Gloria because they apparently have an amazing setup there. But if we have time, I want to tell my favorite story about being in a Bond location because I didn't realize it was a Bond location.
Go for it, buddy.
With one of my friends who was there at the time, and I went to go visit them, and also just to go to Hong Kong. And so she said, "All right, it's called the Pen." This hotel. I was like, all right, sure. So we go and get dim sum, and as we're walking out, I'm just looking around, and I noticed that there's a display case, green Rolls Royces. Like, hey, a green Rolls Royce.
Oh my God! I just watched that the other day.
And I walked outside, looked up. It's the Peninsula Hotel, and I looked to my right, and they were green. They were modern. Green Rolls Royces, but they still have those green Rolls Royces. And so my friend, I because I was in Hong Kong, I had the Man with Golden Gun loaded on my phone, just the video. Showed it to my friend, and she said, "Well, now you can say you've been to the Peninsula Hotel with a blonde, just like Roger Moore."
Nice, yeah. Oh man, I just watched that on Friday actually, and yeah. Good night, a green Rolls Royce. A green Rolls Royce, a green Rolls Royce. Actually, I think I kept watching that just like bits and pieces on. I think there's actually a whole bunch of Bond movies right now on Starz movie channel.
Yeah.
And I ended up just turning the whole thing on, just watching it from beginning to end. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed it more this time. And it's funny about like a movie, especially a Bond movie. Sometimes it depends on how it ages for some people. For this one, when I first saw it, I gotta say I was kind of disappointed. But then I went back and watched it. I was like, this is overall, I mean, it might not be the best Roger Moore or best Bond movie, but it's something I can definitely watch over and over again. It's got some good stuff to it. It really does.
And it's got Christopher Lee, who's always amazing.
Oh, Christopher Lee. He was a great Bond villain. He really was.
Oh, yeah.
Return of J.W. Pepper in there. I mean, that that was good. That car chase was, if anything, it was funny. It really was. And two of the most beautiful Bond girls. I mean, those, Britt Eklund and Maud Adams. And wow, I mean, lucky Roger Moore, definitely. So, awesome, man. Speaking of Bond girls, and you actually mentioned that you technically met her earlier. Want to move into the birthdays and anniversaries real quick. Holly Berry is celebrating a birthday today on August 14th. She was Jinx in Die Another Day. Beautiful, beautiful woman. I will always say that. As for a Bond girl, I don't know. I maybe it was how the script was written by. I think she could probably have done a better job with a better script.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, just sometimes, like I said, if that's the script that they're given, I mean, you can only do with what you have and the direction and so forth. So I don't know if I'm going to blame that on her, but she kind of, like, we can definitely say she definitely recreated that scene coming out of the ocean in Cuba of Ursula Andress. But I mean, she definitely made it work without a doubt. She really did. And it was, I guess the problem I always had with it is not just her cheesy one-liners that remind me of something out of Batman and Robin, but just that they tried to make her equal James Bond. And I think we've talked about that before, and just like, okay, that's something I'll have to revisit for another day, because I'll probably go on and on about that. But another birthday, Vernon Dobchev, and he celebrates a birthday also today on August 14th. He played Max Calba in The Spy Who Loved Me. And Christian, do you remember Max Calba?
I honestly can't say that I do, actually.
All right. I will refresh your memory super quick. So remember when 007 was in Egypt, and he definitely delved deeply into its treasures, but after that he went on and he was trying to get the microfilm in there, okay? And he's battling Triple X for it to a point where he's having a bidding war at this like bar kind of club. Max Calba is the guy who had the fake, microfilm. He was the club owner actually. And Jaws, well, you know what Jaws does? He bites people. His name is Jaws, and he kills people. Yeah. Wow, this must be a Die Another Day episode, because Madonna has a birthday on August 16th. She did the song called Die Another Day for the movie Die Another Day. Not my favorite Bond song, but I definitely do enjoy it. It's, I know a certain artist named Elton John bashed that song. He probably will to his grave, because I don't know, but he needs to take a drink of water. So it's definitely not my favorite Bond song, but if it's on the, it's not probably not even on the radio, but if it's on my Bond playlist, then I will listen to it, and I probably won't skip over it. But and she made a cameo in Die Another Day too. Another birthday, Carol Bouquet. She celebrates birthday on August 18th. Melina Havelock in For Your Eyes Only, the main Bond girl in there. I know I enjoy her anytime I watch that movie. I really do. And she's got her own revenge kind of story in there. If you haven't seen For Your Eyes Only, if you're a Batman fan or you're a James Bond fan, you're still going back and watching these movies, you will enjoy that movie, and you will really love her as a Bond girl. Mark my words.
So funny thing about that movie. So when I watched that with my girlfriend around the same time, and there's the episode where Huntress comes onto Arrow, and she rightfully made the comparison between Huntress and Melina Havelock, and I was like, and to the point where she was calling Melina Helena.
Ooh.
Because very, very similar in terms of driven by revenge, and we have cross. Oh, interesting. I can see that.
Yeah, now I do. I have to go back and watch that. Man, I have to do that. Yeah, because I'm definitely a big Arrow fan. That's for sure. And the last birthday is oh man, I don't have her name on here. We'll have to save that for next time, because I kind of cut it off. Oh well. Anyway, we'll move on here to the final part of the show. Your favorite part, possibly, because you always hate me for this in the end, because you can never decide. You know what this is. What is this segment called?
It is Versus.
Yes, and this is the part of the show where we compare movies of the Batman or James Bond universes versus other franchises in the same wheelhouse. And the last time we talked before the Suicide Squad review, I left you guys with a really interesting one, The Dark Knight Rises versus Spectre. It's the perfect timing, Christian, for you to come on the show because you and I were talking on Twitter about this. So I didn't do it on purpose, but I am going to, I want you to weigh in on this. I know a lot of people picked Spectre on Twitter when they were voting for this over The Dark Knight Rises. For those of you that haven't seen The Dark Knight Rises, it's the end of the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. I won't say it received mixed reviews. It overall received positive reviews, but it didn't, with what we were given with The Dark Knight, it was kind of, the bar was raised so high, and I know you and I had talked about that, Christian. The same can go for Spectre because Skyfall was so well received by audiences. We knew that it was going to be kind of hard for both directors to top themselves with this. And it was we don't know yet. As we said, this could be the final one for Daniel Craig's James Bond. And if it is, then it would kind of be very similar to how they ended in Dark Knight Rises. So yeah. I really want to hear, for those of you that didn't check it on Twitter, what are your feelings with both these movies?
So for both these movies, they're... It's the case where, I like them. I like both of them. Some people may not. And, but it was, for both of them, this movie was better, but it's still however, for me, I gave it the Spectre just because Dark Knight Rises where, overall I enjoy it, but there's a part, the fact that he waits around for 8 years and doesn't do anything, just didn't feel like Batman to me. So for that reason alone, whereas all of the characterization of Bond in Spectre seemed like Bond.
Yeah.
And that's the main reason I gave it. Similar themes. You have, in Spectre you have, Spectre coming back, having been gone for a film, kind of, whereas, in Dark Knight Rises, you have the League of Shadows coming back after being gone in the Dark Knight. And it's just, until you mentioned that, I didn't really look at those comparisons. A lot of comparisons that can be made.
There really are. Yeah. Just, you said the Spectre organization versus the League of Shadows. And if you think about it, for both of these movies, for the character of Bruce Wayne, Batman, and James Bond 007, both of them started off with these organizations. While they might have named Spectre in Casino Royale, ended up being that now that history has been changed. But, it's how they started, and you take that gap in between there. And if in Skyfall, and for those of you who hadn't seen it, it was the main villain in there was Silva, and played by Javier Bardem, really good villain. Let me rephrase that: an excellent, amazing villain. But it's kind of like a one-off in a way, to a point where it's just like it could stand by itself as a separate film, just like The Dark Knight Rises could. I'm sorry, Dark Knight and Skyfall could be separate films, but they ended up tying in these films everything back together. And in my mind, like you said, Spectre just did it better. Dark Knight Rises had just, I don't want to say that they just felt like they had to come back and do it, but it kind of felt like, okay, well, we'll finish this trilogy, but we're going to get, I don't know, what really can we do with this to finish off the story, or we're going to try to be more creative, or I don't know. It just, it's not so much about the 8-year return. It's like little things like, okay, how did Bane know where where Lucius Fox's lab was? How did he know about that? How did he know that Bruce Wayne was, Batman? I mean, was he tipped off by that by Marion Cotillard's character? How did Bruce Wayne get back from out of the
that's a big question.
The Lazarus pit? A lot of people hate that just because of that. And I mean, it's like, well, I can get through that. I mean, because I in my mind, okay, they're shipping stuff into Gotham City, so it's not hard for, just like how the CIA did, for them to, him to sneak in there. Somehow he's Bruce Wayne. I have no idea, but whatever. It's the fact that you can't put two and two together when Bruce Wayne all of a sudden, or Batman disappears and Bruce Wayne disappears all of a sudden. How does John Blake know by looking at somebody's face? I know that expression. I've had that feeling before too. I knew you're Batman. It's like, well, Commissioner Gordon couldn't figure out, dude, and you're only like you're the officer detective. Come on, really, throw me a bone here. So, and with Spectre, kind of has a few plot elements, like, if Bond's going to be drilled in the head by Blofeld, how can he all of a sudden become John Rambo? How can he shoot a chopper down with just a shot or two? But hey, sometimes you have to suspend disbelief. It is a movie in the end. Both movies are great. I love both these movies. I truly do. And it really was hard sometimes to top, just something that was so great. So at least in my opinion, it was. So, yeah. So I'm going to move on, and I will get this one to you guys, and make sure you vote too, Christian, on Twitter.
Will do.
This week's versus is, and it's going to be GoldenEye versus Batman 1989. I'm continuing my James Bond versus Batman, and there's a reason for this. And GoldenEye picks up at a time where James Bond has been around for a while. Okay, everybody knows who James Bond is, but it's kind of like it's got to bring them, putting maybe a slightly different spin on it to a point. It's bringing back some of the classic elements, and but you have a new person in the tux, and how people are going to react to that. With Batman has been around since forever. Everybody knew Batman as more of either the comic book darker character or the, light of comedy of Adam West, Batman, the TV show, or even the Batman movie. And now you have Michael Keaton, which plays a totally, different kind of Batman, and you have a Joker in there that's more violent and so forth, and just a darker tone. So that's kind of why I went with that. I want to hear what everybody else has to say. I'll put up the Twitter poll by the time you listen to this episode, at Twitter at Batman versus Bond. Make sure that you cast your vote, and we will talk about that next week. So that about wraps it up for this episode of the Batman versus James Bond show. Once again, please subscribe on iTunes and rate it 5 stars, and please leave a nice little review for me on there, and share the show with your friends. That always helps. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Batman vs. Bond, and like the Batman vs. James Bond Facebook page. As I mentioned at the top of the show, you can now find the show on the BS Podcast Network. Also, be sure to check out all the great programming on there. They have a lot of great shows, including the Pure BS Podcast. Christian, it is always great having you on here, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Mm-hmm. It's always fun.
Yeah, it's always great having you. You're always welcome on here, too. And like Christian, if you want to be a guest on the show, just send me a private message, and we will get you on here. So, Christian, buddy, take care. Till next time.
All right. See you later.
Okay. And like James Bond, I will return. Until next time, I'm Brian Thomas. Thanks for listening, and have a great week, everybody. Peace out.